It's not your metabolism keeping you from gaining weight, just like it's not your metabolism keeping you from losing weight. It is your lack of awareness to your eating habits. TLDR, just start tracking. My name is Jared, and in this video I'm going to break down exactly why many guys, skinny guys, struggle with weight gain. So if that's you, stay tuned. I have gained 50 pounds in my journey, 40 of which have been lean muscle. So if that's something that interests you, then stay tuned, and I'm going to talk about how to overcome this problem in this video. If you're looking to be around others on the same journey as you, trying to gain weight, trying to build muscle, then you'll really enjoy my community. I have a bunch of free content, I have some premium content, and you can check that out. It's linked below in the description if that's something you want to do. So the first reason that you can't gain weight is you are inconsistent. You think you eat a lot, but you don't, because you're not tracking, you're inconsistently eating. You might be having breakfast, having a small lunch, and having a huge meal at dinner, but that doesn't mean you eat a lot. Because let's say this is like 1,200 calories. This was 300 calories. This was 500 calories. That's 2,000 calories. That's not enough for you to be in a surplus and for you to be gaining weight. You are inconsistent with your eating patterns, and you need to turn into something like this, which takes effort and planning on your part. What should happen is you should have, if you can eat 12, 13, 1,500 calories in one sitting, then spread that out over time. So let's say my calorie goal is 2,400 calories. Do 600 calorie meals so you're not overstuffed at the end of every meal. Or you could do snacks or bars, whatever. Get your calories in and make it more consistent throughout the day so that you actually hit your calorie goals. Because this whole time, while you're like starving, that is you not gaining weight. That is you potentially losing weight. Worst case scenario. So take your inconsistent eating patterns, pay attention to them, and spread them out, make them more consistent. That's within the day. That's on the micro scale. More on the macro scale is the weekly amount that you eat. Maybe you think you're eating enough because most of the week you are hitting your calorie goal. So again, let's say my calorie goal is 2,400 calories. I hit it on Monday, didn't hit it on Tuesday, hit it on Wednesday, did hit it on Thursday, hit it on Friday, did not hit it on Saturday or Sunday. Depending on the days you didn't hit it, you could be in a calorie deficit for the week. And I'll break this down a little bit. So we'll talk about net calories for the day. So how much you ate versus how much you needed. So let's say on Sunday you were negative 150. Monday, you were positive 75. You can see that when we add all this up, you're at minus 325 for the week. That's unacceptable. You need this to be a positive number for you to be gaining weight, for you to be gaining muscle. So what we want it to look like, this is what we're aiming for completely. We want the 300 calorie surplus for the week. We want to be in a small surplus every single day so that we're prioritizing muscle and not fat gain. This is what I figured out when I was in college. I would do exactly as the last example. I would be eating in a surplus most days, and then on the weekends, I would be more in a calorie deficit because I would sleep in a little bit later and I didn't have to get up. I got out of my routine, and I would be negative on the weekends, which put me at maintenance or a deficit. And so I figured out that I needed to pay more attention, track, and start my days off similar to the weekdays so I didn't fall off on the weekends and completely ruin my progress. So clue into this, pay attention to this. You're just being, one of the reasons could be that you're just being inconsistent. Another little caveat or something to pay attention to is the amount of surplus at the end of each week. Right now, I'm aiming for 500 to 1,000, somewhere in that range at the end of the week, and which is roughly like 75 to 150 calories per day, which is going to equate to about a pound-ish a month, and ideally most of that being muscle, if not all of it. If you are on the skinnier side, so I started at 125 pounds when I was starting college trying to gain muscle, and I put on muscle pretty quickly, more than a pound in some months. So you might need to be more, if you're super skinny and you've got a long way to go, 1,500 per week might be more what you're shooting for. So just pay attention to this. Start somewhere, but start being consistent, and you're going to grow. You're going to gain weight. Next, we're going to talk about awareness. And I've talked about this in a previous video, but it's still so important. We need to hit it because it is foundational. You need to be aware of what you're eating. And most people who are underweight are thinking that they eat more than they do. People who are overweight think they eat less than they do. And we find this when they start tracking. Underweight people tend to overshoot on calories for different items. They might call a glass of milk 300 calories versus an overweight person might call a glass of milk 100 calories, and so they don't think they're eating a lot. You can see how this lack of awareness has caused them to be in either category. Because if you don't think you're eating a lot, you're going to continue eating. And on the flip side, if you think you're overeating, you might eat less. This isn't true for everybody. It's just an example. So what do we do about this? Well, you must track. You must track your calories, what you're eating. This doesn't take that long. I sit down for 5 minutes and track on MyFitnessPal, and I just punch in everything. And after a month of tracking, we don't eat different foods that often. And so it all stays in the database, and you can just quickly add it. Like I eat the same thing for lunch every day, and so I just plus. It's very easy. For breakfast, I've got like 3 or 4 different things that I rotate through as my breakfast, and so it's just, search that, plus. It's very fast once you have a little bit of a database going. So you can use apps. That's one method. You can write down in a food journal what you're eating every day. If you have just a little notebook and you write, okay, apple, 80 calories, glass of milk, 120 calories, and you just write down your food log for the day, and you can look and you can flip through it day by day and see how much you ate, what you should be eating, so on and so forth. And then the highest level of this is buying a food scale and weighing things out. I do this. I have a food scale. I weigh out my food every single day. Not necessarily every single thing I eat, but when I'm making breakfast and I'm pouring my milk and I'm putting on peanut butter and all these things, once you have an idea of what a serving of something looks like, your world changes. Because you're like, oh my gosh, I've been overdoing it, or oh my gosh, I've been underdoing it this whole time. This is a realization that most people go through because you just have no idea what one serving really looks like until you start weighing it out and getting that idea. It's very powerful. I recommend you try it. Food scales are like $13 to $20 on Amazon. They are not expensive. And this one that I have, I don't think I've ever changed the battery on it, and I've had it for more than 5 years, which is pretty awesome. The next thing is macros versus calories. You can track macros, but I find this to be pretty tedious, and it causes me to burn out and stop tracking because it kind of just more time consuming and I think unnecessary for most people. So if you're just trying to gain weight, I'd recommend just calories, tracking your calories, and then paying attention to protein. So let's say myself, I need about 3,000 calories a day, and so I'll just worry about that. And if I work out, then that goes up a little bit, and then I want to be in a small surplus, so I tend to be around 3,500 to 3,800 calories, and then protein. These are I'm only recommending that you focus on these two because protein you need for muscle building and calories you need for just not losing weight and potentially gaining a little bit of weight. So for protein, you need 0.73 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. After 0.73 grams per pound, there's a plateau for muscle protein synthesis, but you're totally safe with 1 gram. It's very, very difficult to overdo protein. Your body can handle so much, close to like 4 grams per pound, which nobody is eating that much, probably. Without serious dedication and mental problems, they're not hitting that. So nothing to be worried about. You cannot really easily overdo protein. So as long as you're above 0.73, you're fine. So start today, download an app. I use MyFitnessPal. Download the app, track your calories. It'll take, at first, there's a little bit of a learning curve. There's a little bit more of a time commitment for when you first start out. So do that, start sooner rather than later, and get started on your awareness. Because once you see how much you're actually eating, you will tend to eat more or less depending on what camp you're in. But just having that awareness, that's just the first step. So do that, do it for 30 days, and build awareness around what you're eating. The next problem that skinnier guys have is that they're trying to eat clean. This is not really a thing when you're struggling to eat enough, when you don't have a huge stomach. You cannot try to eat clean. When I'm trying to really gain weight, I cannot just stuff myself with vegetables and all these whole foods. I've got to drink my calories. I've got to eat higher calorie, highly palatable foods, which I'll get into. Eating clean, just throw that out of the window. Eat your McDonald's, eat your Chick-fil-A. Don't overdo it. You don't want to gain unnecessary fat. Eat less clean foods up to the point where you're in a small surplus. You don't need to seriously overdo it and just become a big fat American. Another thing I want to talk about is substitution. So when trying to hit your calorie goals, you're typically, again, you only need a small surplus. You're probably not that far off on what you need to be eating. And so substituting lower fat milk for whole milk, substituting sugar-free beverages for sugared ones, substituting lean ground beef for higher fat ground beef, 80-20, things like that. These small substitutions absolutely add up. From skim to whole milk, that's 70 calories per cup. For sugar-free beverages, that's over 140 typically. For ground beef, that's another 70 calorie difference. And so if you add all of these up, it's over 300 calories per day, which is about what you need to be closer to hit your calorie goals. And so you can make these small substitutions and not even feel like you're eating more because you're eating the same stuff, but they're just higher calories. A personal story on the substitutions: when I'm on a lower calorie day and I need to make up calories on the later half of the day, I will switch to sugary sweetened beverages. I will switch to whole milk. I will switch to more oil in my dinners. And once you're on a routine and you know these small substitutions, it's pretty easy to fit in when you need to. Again, you just need to be aware, you need to track all that stuff. The next thing, if you're struggling, as I've mentioned previously with the lack of clean eating, try eating higher calorie, highly palatable foods. These are things that you find in America like chips, soda, candies, Oreos, all these highly processed things that are designed for us to eat a lot of and kind of be addicted to. The motto of Lay's chips is you can't have just one. Find some of these that you like if you struggle to eat and eat more of those, because they're typically going to cause you to be hungrier. They're going to empty out of your stomach faster, and so you can eat more that way. The final tips I want to talk about for skinny guys to gain weight is to drink your calories and the order in which you eat your meals. Liquid calories. When you're drinking your calories, your body has to do less physical digestion or chemical digestion. It's already liquid, so it's very easy to go in the stomach, digest a little bit, and then empty out so that your stomach is empty and you can keep eating. You can do this with chocolate milk, which is high calorie and liquid. You can do this with high calorie smoothies. I used to make 1,000-calorie smoothie almost every day for 18 months in college, and it would take me a while to drink, but it would set me off for the day on a pretty good pace. It was high protein, it was over 1,000 calories, so it was starting my day off well. The next thing is the order of eating your food. So different foods have different rates of emptying from the stomach. Some things come in and digest a while and then slowly empty out. Other things come in and quickly empty. One of those things that comes in and quickly empties is carbs. It will come into the stomach. Your stomach will sense that it's carbs and actually increase how much it's emptying, because carbs are an energy source which your body needs and wants to replenish. And so it will quickly empty carbs from the stomach to be quickly used as an energy source. So eat your carbs first. The next thing is protein. Protein is also a little bit harder to break down than carbs are. And so eat your meat in your meal second, because it's going to come down and slower than carbs empty out. And the slowest thing that empties out of your stomach is fat, which is typically within carbs and protein. That's why I don't have it listed here, but also vegetables. Vegetables have a bunch of fiber in them, and fiber slows digestion, stays in your stomach for a while, and keeps you satiated. This is why you should not eat your vegetables first. You can see this happening. If you, in the past, have eaten a bunch of vegetables before anything else, you can feel yourself become less hungry, especially if you're a slow eater like myself. A personal story about these two. This year, I trained and ran a marathon. And when you're training for a marathon, you're running for close to an hour most days. And I was also working out. So I would burn a bunch of calories, and I needed over 4,000 calories to be maintaining my weight, sometimes upwards of 5,000. And I am not a big eater. I don't have a huge stomach. I can typically fit anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 calories at one time. And so I would have to drink my calories, whether it's chocolate milk, smoothies, sodas, just liquid calories, a lot of it being carbs because I'm training for a marathon. And I would also plan out my meal eating in this order, and it helped me hit my calorie goals. And I did not lose weight, and I did not lose strength while training for this marathon for 4 months, which is pretty spectacular in my opinion, because I was having to eat so many calories and I was able to do that. So these are very powerful strategies. Pick any of the ones we talked about today, fix them, be consistent, bring awareness to what you're eating. That is probably the biggest thing. Don't try to eat clean, drink your calories, and eat your food in this order. Those are my tips for the day. If you want more information on things like this, and you want to be surrounded by other guys that are on the same journey as you, then join my community. I will link it below in the description. It's free for you to join. I've got a bunch of free, valuable content in there, as well as some paid content. There's no forced commitment on anybody. Click the link in the description, and I will see you in the community.